Hey everybody, KMO here with another Out of My Head video. I got a lot of feedback from, well, not a lot, but a reasonable amount of feedback given the number of views the video got on yesterday's video. I mentioned in it that I had a ringing in my ears, and that I think it's been there for a long time. It's just I never noticed it until I started meditating regularly. And various people wrote to me to say, read this, check this out, try this. Other people just said, yeah, I have it too, it drives me nuts. And one person said that, normally I would read this stuff off my phone, but I'm shooting on the phone and I'm not at home, so. One person said that he has it as well, but he notices that it's less intense when he gets away from Wi-Fi, particularly when he's out in the jungle. That the ringing in the ears isn't so bad. So, for various reasons, I took a walk up to the cemetery today, and I was walking around and I paused and I just, because I can go throughout the day and not really notice the ringing in my ears, but then if I stop and I'm quiet and I just listen for it, I can hear it. So I was walking around and I stopped and I listened for it. But there are a variety of insects. It's 50 degrees. But even at this temperature, there's a steady chorus of a variety of insect noises and bird noises. So, are my ears ringing? I don't know. If they are, I can't distinguish the noise from the insects and the birds. Somebody, after one of my cemetery videos, said, "Is that the dead center of Bellows Falls?" Ha ha. There's actually a cemetery that is pretty close to the dead center of Bellows Falls, and it's a beautiful place. I would shoot videos there, but there'd be a lot of truck noise. Just, I don't want to call it an accident exactly, but, as a result of years of planning and, people laying out the roads around here long before they realized how much freight would be going over the roads, it just so happens that the only way to get across the Connecticut River from Vermont to New Hampshire, or vice versa, is to use a bridge right off the square in downtown Bellows Falls. So we have all these big trucks cruising through our, a street. It's a main street, but we call it the square. And you can tell that at one time, it was a pedestrian area. But you take your life in your hands if you try to cross the street down there these days, even though there are multiple crosswalks and multiple signs and, the flashing speed sign and all manner of stuff to tell the truck drivers to slow down, but they're behind the wheel all day and they just can't be bothered. There's this monument behind me. It's a big monument, for around here. Clearly, somebody laid out a pretty penny for that. It's got some symbols on it. I would call them sigils. I don't know what they mean. I'll look them up later. But it's also covered in lichen, and some of the names on it: Spicer Fifield, May Wilcox and Dean. Some of those illustrious names are barely legible because of the lichen. I was listening as I drew to Isaac Arthur's, is it Isaac Arthur or Arthur Isaac? It's S-F-I-A, Isaac Arthur, yes. Those people with the two first names. Isaac Arthur's monthly live stream. He does these scripted, like half-hour to 40-minute shows about science and futurism and astronomy and things like that. And once a month he does a live stream, and he's so popular that he has to have a gaggle of wranglers to select the incoming questions for him. It is a YouTube and I guess Twitch sort of co-production with lots of volunteer help. And somebody asked him, "Are you bummed out that you're living in the 21st century and you're not going to see all the stuff that you're talking about?" And he said, living in the 21st century is definitely better than living in the 18th century. It's better than living in the 20th century. I don't know that it's better to grow up in North America in the 21st century, the early part anyway, than it was in, when I grew up. I had a much more independent and adventurous youth than my children are having. There was little temptation to sit in front of screens all day. and there were bikes to ride and adventures and, mischief to get into. And the police were a lot more forgiving, at least for people of my skin tone back then. If my kids did the things that I did, yeah, they would be in trouble. Anyway, Isaac Arthur, he was saying, yeah, I wouldn't want to be living at any previous time, but, the one technology that I'm most anxious for them to perfect is radical life extension. I have spoken to relatives in their older years who were just, running out the clock. They didn't want to live any longer, than their natural allotment. They were done. They were ready to have it be over with. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be running out the clock. And yet at the same time, right now it wouldn't really be any sort of choice to make, because life extension is not going to be a one-time thing. It's like, take this pill and live forever. It'll be a cumulative effect of multiple treatments to relieve physical ailments. And who's going to turn down relief? Not me. But I was watching this show. I think it was on Netflix. It was a documentary, though, and it was a show about medicines developed from genomic research. And these great new medications and treatments had been developed to treat things which, people suffer from, and they'd been suffering from for a long time, and there had been no effective treatment. And now there is, but the drug companies who own the patents want $100,000 a dose, and one dose isn't the cure. So technophiles, if you bring up the argument, and I'm stepping out of the grass there because I have phantom ticks crawling up my legs. But if you bring up the argument with hardcore technophiles that, yeah, this life extension technology might be possible, but it's not going to be affordable, they'll trot out the cell phone and they'll say, look, and this is a Ray Kurzweil chestnut. Look, in the 80s and 90s, if you saw a character on screen with a mobile phone, that was code to say, here is a powerful person, here is a rich person. Now everybody's got one, and the things that they're carrying around now are much better than the rich people had back then. All technology doesn't follow that path. Medicine isn't following that path because there are other factors that determine the price other than just the cost of production, specifically intellectual property laws, so that a drug that might cost a few dollars to manufacture, you can charge $100,000 for it. And if, the person who is suffering and possibly dying for lack of this thing can't come up with the money, well, too bad. We're not in this business to help people. We're in this business to make money. When's that going to change? Until that changes, immortality, unless you're one of the select few, would suck. If the screws just get tightened and tightened and tightened on the people without. Yes, we have cell phones. Yes, many of us are overweight. That doesn't excuse the maldistribution of wealth in this society. Anyway. Every time I can see my face, I'm recording this on a phone that I'm holding on a selfie stick, but I've got it in selfie mode, and every time my teeth or my gap comes out, I do this thing with my lip, where I try to bring my lip up to cover that. So I know that the lack of teeth is distorting my facial gestures. When I first got, these are bifocals. When I first got bifocals, I noticed that it changed my body language as well, because now I'm always tilting my head back like this so I can look at things at the distance through the stronger part of the lens at the bottom of the glasses. But, if you didn't know that's why I was doing it, and we're talking and I'm just tilting my head back, it might look like I'm, turning my nose up at you. What gestures will I adopt to compensate for ill-fitting or, malfunctioning cybernetic implants? Maybe I'll never know. Maybe it all will come crashing down tomorrow. If it does, you will not hear from me. But if it doesn't, I will talk to you again tomorrow.